Alright, so I'm going to continue on with my notes. I need to again divide my paper up into actually 6 boxes. So I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to fold it into thirds. And if you have it in your notebook, again, remember you can just draw lines down. So I am going to grab my marker here, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a line down the center. And then I'm going to divide it up into thirds. So there's one line, and then draw another line down here as well. Okay, so you should have 6 boxes. These are going to be a continuation on of our notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and we were left off with example 3, so we'll pick up with example 5. And again, they're going to be the same instructions as before. Solve each equation and check your work. Okay. All right, so example 5 is we have the equation is g over 4 equals 9. Okay, so now we need to figure out how to solve for g. It's being divided by 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So the 4's get crossed out. And g equals 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, do a quick check. Make sure you show why your answer is correct. Catch any mistakes you made. So I'm going to say 36 divided by 4, does that indeed equal 9? Going back to my original problem. 36 divided by 4 is equal to 9. So I know my answer is correct. Alright, let's do one that's a little bit more challenging. What we're going to go ahead and do is example, oops, sorry, this should have been example 4, I'm sorry. This is example 5. And it's going to be -5 equals -1/6 times t. Okay? Whenever you're dealing with fractions, is you want to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so when it says multiply by the reciprocal, that means you're going to want to flip over whatever this fraction is next to t. So that means the 6 would move to the top, and then right up here we are going to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay. So it'll be 6 on the top, and then it's going to be -1 on the bottom. Okay, what I do to one side, I need to do to the other side. So what ends up happening here, do you see how the 6's get crossed off? And the -1's get crossed off. So t is going to equal. And guys, 6 divided by -1 is just really -6. So it's going to be -6 times -5, which equals 30. Okay, so let's do a quick check and see if that does end up being true. So -5, does it equal -1/6 times 30? We're multiplying fractions, so we're going to multiply across the top. So you get -30 over 6. And -30 over 6, doesn't that equal -5? So we know that our answer of t equaling 30 is correct. All right, let's do one more like that. Those are a little bit challenging. So go down and let's write in example 6. Okay, so we are going to have -2/3 x equals 12. And sometimes the negative won't really be with one number, but just, you know, if it's just like out front here, just make sure you include it in your reciprocal when you multiply. So like for example here, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 over -2. What I do to one side, I need to the other side, so 3 over -2. On the left hand side, the 3's and the 2's get crossed out. I'm left with x equals 12 times 3 is 36. 1 times -2 is -2. So it's going to be 36 divided by -2 is -18. And then you want to plug it back in to check your work. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick check here. So it's -2/3 times -18. Does that equal 12? Okay. -2 times -18 is going to give us 36. 3 times 1 is 3. 36 over 3 is indeed 12. So my answer of negative 18 does work out. All right, here are the 3 problems to do for your turn. Okay, so we're going to have D is going to be T over 4 equals 8. Make sure you get that down. Letter E is going to be 5 over 6 times 8 is 25. And letter F is going to be 36 equals negative 3/4 times x. Oops, sorry, it's kind of hard to read. There we go. So make sure you get those ones down. If you're watching this video, I recommend you pause it at this point and come back and check your work in a moment. All right, letter D, we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 4. So T equals 32. If you plug it back in, you want to check that work, you will end up noticing that it is correct. I'm not going to do the checks right now, but you should have them on your paper. All right, letter E, you want to multiply by the reciprocal. So remember that means 6 goes on top, 5 now goes on the bottom. What happens is the 6 get crossed out and the 5s get crossed out. Multiply by 6 over 5. Remember when we multiply fractions, we're going to multiply across the top and then across the bottom. So let's see, 25 times 6. 25 times 6 is going to be 150 over 5. And then 150 divided by 5 is going to be 30. Make sure you show a check that your answer is correct. Last one over here. All right, got to multiply by the reciprocal. I'm just going to put, doesn't really matter where the negative is at per se, so I'm just going to put it, let's see, so we have negative 4 thirds. 4's get crossed out, 3's get crossed out. What I do to one side, I need to do the other side. I think I'm just going to put it on the top. It doesn't matter, just put it in one spot. So negative 4 thirds. So x is going to equal. Now, if you remember multiplying fractions, some of you might remember how to cancel a little bit, and you can do that. So like, for example, if you realize 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 36 12 times, that's going to make your life a little bit easier. If not, you can just reduce at the end. Negative 4 times 12 is negative 48. You should have shown a check. I'm not going to show it right now for the sake of time, but make sure you have a check on your paper there. Okay. All right, let's go back to our original problem. Let's kind of review it for a sec. It says James purchased student tickets for a baseball game. Each student paid $6 per ticket. James collected $280. How many students are going to the game? All right, I think it's going to be easiest if we go ahead and create that equation and then we can solve for it. So if I let x represent how many students, I'm going to let that be what x is. Okay, so we're going to say we know that it was $6 per student, collected $288. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So x equals, you can either do the workout or grab a calculator. It's going to be 48. Okay, so let's do a check, make sure that works out. So 6 times 48, does that actually equal 288? Yes, it does. So we're good to go. So I'm going to say 48 students are going to the game. Okay, all right, so make sure you have that done. You can go ahead and start the practice problems now.